स्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति. In this video, I will describe the categories of Jivan Muktas and the characteristics of a Jivan Mukta. Despite certain common characteristics, these Jivan Muktas are in actual life found to differ widely from one another in their behavior, their way of dealing with society and the world, their pattern of austerity and imparting of instruction and method of dealing with devotees. For instance, Bhagwan Ramana lived a life of silence mostly, never moving out of Tiruvannamalai during the period from 1896 to 1950, that is till the end. Nothing could elicit the least reaction in him. His forbearance, forbidding his companions or devotees from coming to his help even when thieves broke into his ashram and beat him, was remarkable. He never made a formal disciple by giving traditional initiation. He lived as if the very supreme Brahma had descended on the earth as he is and lived among us. Sri Ramakrishna Paramhamsa's way of life was far different. He used to weep and pray to his divine mother Kali even after he had reached the non-dual Advaitic stage of supreme consciousness. He used to go into nirvikalpa samadhi, that is, undifferentiated state of consciousness, even while hearing the names of the Divine Mother or some soul-stirring songs of devotion. He used to talk volubly to the visitors and devotees. He used to dance and sing ecstatically during holy celebrations. He used to weep before the Divine Mother, lamenting about the delay in the coming of his disciples to him. Sadasiva Brahmarendra of Nerur used to go about naked, not caring for anybody's frown or favor. He used to play with little children in the street and behaved like a madman. He was an erudite scholar and has written commentaries on the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, also on Brahma Sutra. He has composed a number of songs containing both the devotion and knowledge jnana. Many a miracle has been attributed to him. Thus each Jivan Mukta lives in a distinctly individualistic way and no two of them have apparently much in common. It is impossible to categorize these Jivan Muktas into recognizable types with common traits. The reason for this difference has been explained in many texts like Jivan Mukti Viveka and Advaita Deepika. Scriptures like Akshopanishad, Mahaopanishad, and Annapurna and Yoga Vasishtha have defined 7 stages of yoga or levels of consciousness known as Jnana Bhumikas or Yoga Bhumikas. They are first Bhumika, Subhecha, that is sprouting of spiritual longing. This is a aphorism in Mahopanishad. I'll just I will talk about the English translation of this shloka. With the knowledge that I am ignorant, the desire that arises to know the reality through scriptures and holy men established in spirituality by resorting to dispassion, that is indifference to all other worldly objects, is called subhecha. Gradually, his internal desires accumulated through past tendencies get subsided and he develops detachment. He is interested in good and meritorious deeds and desists from worldly interest. He is afraid of sinful thoughts and deeds and does not go after enjoyment. He talks sweetly, appropriate to the time and place, and is full of love. He serves all good and holy people by mind, words, and deeds. He tries to go through scriptural text. This is the first stage. Second, bhumika, vicharna, discrimination and contemplation, seeking the company of good people and study of scriptures while practicing detachment from all worldly objects and adopting the good conduct as followed by spiritually advanced person is the second bhumika known as vicharana, discrimination and contemplation. As a result of practicing the first stage, one reaches the second stage, that is vicharana, by following the good code of conduct as prescribed in the scriptures and by engaging in contemplation and meditation. He hears the discourses by erudite and excellent scholars. As a result of such hearing, he is able to know the nature of the various categories of objects and is able to distinguish as to what is to be done and what is not to be done. He discards pride, ego, jealousy, greed, and delusion, just like a snake seeks of its slough. He develops a true understanding of even the secret teachings on account of his devotion to scriptures and good people. Third, bhumika, asmar, asamsarga or tanumanasi, thinning of desires. This is in Mahopanishad. W- When due to long practice in the first and second bhumikas, one's attraction to the objects of senses become thin. It is known as tanumanasi, thinning of mind. This stage is verily a bed of roses on account of his mind being firmly engaged in the contemplation of the meaning of scriptural teaching through the spiritual discourses of holy man. His mind acquires tranquility and he finds pleasure in wandering in solitude, in jungles and other places, and spends his life sleeping on stones. By performance of meritorious deeds and by constant practice of scriptures and company of holy men, he spends a life of comfortable detachment. His perception of the world and the matter gets more and more clarity. Fourth bhumika, sattvapatti, pure mind. By repeated practice of the first three stages, when the withdrawal of the mind from all worldly objects get established, the mind remains engaged in the pure self. This is the fourth stage known as the sattvapatti, that is pure mind. In this stage, ignorance gets mostly effaced and one begins to look at all things of the world with an equal vision. Dualism disappears and non-duality takes root. One begins to deem the world as a dream. This is also called dream stage. Fifth bhumika, asamsakti, complete lack of attachment. Accord, according of Akshyopanishad, the third stage itself is known as asamsarga, lack of attachment. When one disassociates himself from the doership of all actions, everything happens as a result of actions of past birth, prarabdha, or as per the Lord's will. The ultimate achievement of this stage is that one remains tranquil and silent in his inner form without thinking of any external objects. According to this version, fifth stage is called susupta, asleep. Then, as per Mahopanishad, having been completely disassociated with the objects of the world, remaining established in the state of witness consciousness on account of the firm conviction about the absolute truth is the fifth stage. As per Akshyopanishad, part second, And 32-36, the mind completely subsides at this stage. Consequently, the world does not appear before such a person. All differences disappear. This person remains only in his immanence as sheer existence. He is inwardly enlightened. He is established in non-duality. Even while engaged in actions externally, his attention is inwards and so looks as if he is asleep. Sixth Bhumika, Padartha Bhavana, absorption in the truth. In this stage, the mind is absorbed in the witness state which transcends all things internal as well as external. He firmly revels in his own self. The Akshopanishad calls this stage as Turiya, transcendental. Mahopanishram, the seventh stage, as Turiya or Turiyaga, transcendental. In this stage, with a lot of effort, he recognized that Brahma, Supreme Being, is his own self. One is now in a stage which can either be called as being or non-being and is absolutely fearless. All the notes in his mind have been loosened, all doubts set at rest. A fully blossomed Jivan Mukta. He remains unmoved like a burning lamp in a painting. Sixth, seventh Bhumika, Turiya, transcendental. This is in Mahopanishad. Akshopanishad terms this stage as Videha Muktata, thoroughly oblivious of the existence of a body. According to some, this stage can be obtained only after death, when the body is left. Mahopanishad also, while calling it as Turiya, asserts that only when one crosses this stage Videha Mukti results. This is the stage where one is firmly established in his own natural state, that is Brahma. This is a state beyond words and is the highest state. The pure consciousness, all the superimposition of the world, body, etc., is effaced without a trace. Even though persons in all the last four of the Jnana Bhumikas are considered to be knowers of Brahmavid, the last three belong to Jivan Muktas and they are respectively known as great knowers of Brahma, great knowers of Brahma, and the best among the knowers of Brahma, Brahmavidaraha, Brahmavidariyan, and Brahmavidyaristha, respectively. There again, the seventh last bhumika is deemed by some to belong to Videha Mukta, those who are freed from the body and have no awareness of the body at all. Again, according to some, Videha Mukti is obtained only after one discards the body after death. Ultimately, the Videha Mukta is only a refined version of Jivan Mukta. The difference between the three stages, even though all of them are Jivan Muktas, is due to the degree of tranquility achieved in the practice of undifferentiated Nirvikalpa Samadhi state by the three categories, but some attribute it also to the result of past actions active in this current birth, which prarabdha, which will be different for different persons. For a real sadhaka, these differences in the naming of these stages are of no consequence. According to Adhyatmopanishad, the effect of prarabdha is not destroyed even after attaining jnana, the highest knowledge, as it is like an arrow already released, which cannot be stopped en route without reaching the target. But this is applicable so long as the body sense continues, as ultimately even prarabdha is an imagination of the mind due to the illusion of the body. For whatever reason, we have to accept the fact that due to the will of God, substantial differences exist between one Jivan Mukta and another in their way of functioning in life, etc. In practice, one of the unfailing tests is recognizing a Jivan Mukta is that when any aspirant or seeker, sometimes even any common man, comes and sits by the side of a Jivan Mukta, For some time he will find all agitations and worries in his mind disappearing automatically, and he continues to feel a sort of spiritual exhilaration, inner strength, and peace for a long time, sometimes for days, depending on his own stage of development, even after he leaves the presence of the saint. One finds his spiritual battery fully charged while endows him with a different outlook, enabling him to tackle problems and situations at home, office, and in society with ease and a lack of tension or concern about the result. It is said that in the case of Bhagwan Ramana, the doubts of ever so many devotees like Mr. Paul Brunton used to get solved while simply sitting in silence before him, and there was no need to give vocal expression. Now I will describe the characteristics of a Jivan Mukta. What are the qualities? The various Upanishads describe the Jivan Mukta as follows. Number one, a Jivan Mukta is one who never identifies himself with his body or senses, say, I am the body, etc., and never considers the rest of the objects of the world as separate from him. He, as Brahman, the supreme consciousness, is the substratum of the entire world. This is a highly objective and subtle quality which will be difficult for an observer to recognize. Number two, he always lives in the supreme consciousness of his undifferentiated existence where he is non-different from all the beings. He has no longer any attachment to anything other than his own self. Third, the Jivan Mukta in the fifth state of consciousness, Jnana Bhumika, remains as if he is half asleep, and whenever he goes into Samadhi state, he can get up by himself. The one in the sixth Bhumika remains as if he is asleep, merged in dense bliss, and wakes up from Samadhi state only when aroused by others. The seventh state is the most wonderful and unique state, called also as Turyatitya, Turyatita, beyond the transcendental, which is Brahma itself. It remains without any thought of being or non-being, ego or non-ego, as pure existence, only Laghu Yoga Vasishtha. It is impossible for the mind to conceive of it and for words to describe it. In my own personal opinion, in recent times till April 1950, Bhagwan Ramana was an example for that seventh state. The liberated one, when he moves with older and scholarly people, talks at their own level profoundly. While talking with children, he talks at their level, cutting jokes and making them laugh. When people in sorrow come to him, he is also full of sorrow in empathy with them. He is he is bereft of all desires and attachments. Though externally he may show some specific preferences, I have seen devotees bringing some special sweets prepared at home for my Gurudeva, saying that the latter always liked them, who used to pronounce them as excellent even before he touched or tasted them. It is said that once Sri Ramakrishna Paramahansa asked one Mathur Babu to get him a silk shawl which he wore once and soon enough threw it away in mud and trampled on it, saying, what is there in this silk? He never has a fifth. He never has a single doubt and never takes any decision like I will do this or that. He just floats as if asleep in the ocean of life without choice, without preference, neither swimming nor against the current, accepting whatever comes, good or bad, favorable or unfavorable, without judging and without ego or pride, like a silent witness. This is the best of the means for attaining Jivan Mukti. If we function in this manner in practical life, whether in office or houses or society, no problem, no crisis, no any happiness will crop up. Sixth, he takes no interest in any of the objects of enjoyment. He has no taste for food. He eats bitter, salty, pungent, good or bad things with equal relish. Normally, people try to hide and fight against old age by dyeing their hair, wearing wigs, applying anti-wrinkle creams, etc. A Jivan Mukta faces old age, death, calamities, and pen, penury as pleasantly as he would become a kingdom offered to him. Mahopanishad, the entire 11th chapter of the 6th Amsa of Shivam Rahasyam, known more popularly as Ribhu Gita, containing the conversation between Ribhu and Nidga, deals with Jivan Muktas, their characteristics as delineated therein they are follows. A. A Jivan Mukta never identifies himself with his body, senses, mind, etc. He has the firm conviction that the Supreme Being is verily himself and thus revels in supreme bliss. He is bereft of all ego, which is the cause of all misery, and lives only as the pure consciousness. B. A Jivan Mukta is one who is thoroughly aware that I have no guru or disciple apart from me. There is no transcendental knowledge apart from me. There is no sacred place of pilgrimage apart from me. There is no service to the Lord apart from me. There is no God apart from me. There is no japa, chanting of mantra or mantra sacred syllable of the Lord apart from me. There is no fire sacrifice, homa apart from me. Nor is there any night ignorance. All the world is in me, not apart. Thus the Jivan Mukta rests in his own self. See, I am in no delusion. I have no knowledge apart from me. I have no secrets to hide. I have no lineage, kulam. I have lineage, that is kulam. I have nothing. I possess nothing. The one who contemplates thus is a Jivan Mukta. D. There is no question of any repeated spiritual practice or knowledge to be gained. There is no question of attaining any peace of mind nor of controlling the senses. E. The one who knows that I have nothing to be spoken to, not even a little, nor have anything to hear or contemplate in the least, is a Jivan Mukta. F. I am convinced thoroughly that I am the Supreme Being, Brahma. I am the Brahma and I am the Brahma, and also I am the pure consciousness. I am the pure conscience. This is the state in which a Jivan Mukta always lives. The entire Ribhu Gita, including the chapter on Jivan Mukta, is meant for constant contemplation on Brahma and for catapulting the seeker into the contemplation that I am the Brahma, Aham Brahma Bhavana. Bhagavan Ramana told a least literate lady, Sampurnamma, even if you do not understand the meaning, it does not matter. A repeated recitation will bestow untold benefits. The purpose of the aforesaid description of a Jivan Mukta, which is neither easy of emulation nor so easily understandable, is to take us to higher stage of consciousness only by repeated recitation. Eighth, we all believe that every one of us is a distinctly different individual, and the mind is the source of this feeling of individuality, which is only a thought. Hence, the distinctions of I, mine, and you arise. This wrong division of the one consciousness, which is whole, total, and undivided, is all a thought arising from the mind, which we have been hypnotized into believing the one who is free from such thoughts of individuality is a Jivan Mukta. Ninth, all our actions in life are normally motivated by our nature made up of three modes, guna, sattva, rajas, and tamas. A Jivan Mukta is one whose functioning is spontaneous as he is bereft of the three modes natural to everyone. Tenth, he revels in his self alone and remains fully absorbed in the sweetness of the supreme knowledge of Brahma. So this video I stops here. Now in the next video I will describe how a Jivan Mukta carry on with his normal day-to-day life. So dear friends, please subscribe my channel, share, comment and like my video. Thank you. Namaskar, namaskar, namaskar.